Hello dearest friends, welcome back to my channel, Diana and the Book Hunt. So let me tell you my struggle every single time that I make a reading vlog, that I film a reading vlog. I never record an introduction to the vlog before I actually start reading. And it's really weird to now sit down and do an introduction about things that I've already done. So let me tell you, I participated in the Romance Takeover Readathon, and I decided to film my thoughts on all the books that I read for the readathon. I finished 4 books and I DNF'd 1 book at 45%, believe it or not. So yeah, basically I'm going to share all my thoughts on the books that I read during the readathon. I'm going to tell you right now that because I DNF'd that book, my bingo card kind of flew out the window at the moment that I decided to DNF it, because it was a book that covered a lot of the bases on the bingo card, but I did manage to strike off quite a few of the prompts that I had decided to cover. So I'm pretty proud about that. And then I was really happy to just read books that for the most part I really enjoyed. I mean, I had a 5-star read, 2 4-star reads, 3.5-star read, so I'm pretty happy with that. And also I read a book that was on my TBR for a very long time, and I was really on the fence about one of the books, whether I should pick it up or not, because there is a controversy going on that you're going to see me discuss, because I did decide to pick up that book in the end. So overall, this is going to be a very rambly video. There's not going to be too much b-roll here, so please excuse me for that, but I really didn't have any opportunity to film anything else than just me reading and talking. So for this one, I read Below Zero by Hazelwood. I read The Idea of You by Robinne Lee. I read Butcher and Blackbird by Brynne Weaver. I also read This Could Be Us by Kennedy Ryan. And then finally I DNF'd The Sticken, which I'm kind of blanking out on the author right now, but I'm going to link up the cover when I talk about that book so you can check it out. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and slide into the vlog portion of this video. Good morning, dear friends. I am going to make pancakes this morning for my son and my partner before I start working, and you're probably hearing my dishwasher. It's very loud. I'm sorry about that, but I don't know when I'm going to be able to update you next, so I just want to do that really quickly. Yesterday was the first day of the readathon, and I had the most hectic day. I had so much to do and there was very little time for me to read, but fortunately enough, in the morning when I was doing my chores before I start my day, I did manage to finish the first book, which is a short novella by Hazelwood. It fit within my prompts that I wanted to fill in for my bingo card. The book is Below Zero. It's the 3rd novella within her Loath to Love You bundle of novellas. I read the first 2 books maybe, I don't know, a year and a half ago or so. I don't remember anymore, but this one, I don't know, I just didn't, I had maxed out on them because they're very similar to one another, and I was like, I'm just going to keep it for another time when I'm in the mood for it. And I thought about it now, like, what do I need to cover for the bingo card prompts? And that's the first novella that popped into my head to read, so I decided to pick this one up. And it's very much Ali, so it's very like on brand with the types of books that she writes. And I need to start making these pancakes because I don't have much time, but at the same time I'm not good at like looking at the camera and doing stuff at the same time, but I just need to get over it. So let's go ahead and start on my pancakes. So this is a STEMnist novella bundle. The first 3 books follow 2 of the friends within this friend group. The 3rd book is the 3rd friend who wants to join NASA very badly because she's fascinated with Mars, and she's presenting herself as someone who isn't a very good student. Like she says at the beginning of the book, like, you know how everyone who works at NASA is probably one of those overachieving types of kids who always had good grades and stuff like that. I'm not that type of person. I had to really work to remember stuff and to basically get ahead at school. So yeah, she basically wants to join NASA, so she's in her grad school or something like that, or she's in university. And we do get within this short novella quite a few time lapses, like time jumps, like 1 year ago, 5 years ago, 5.5 years ago, present. So I was like, is that necessary? But at the same time, I was cool with it. I mean, I didn't get confused by it or anything. But anyway, so she has this romance with this guy who is very aloof when it comes to feelings, and when it comes to showing his feelings and showing her that he likes her. He's part of this NASA team. He's very young and very like brilliant, so he started working there already when he was like 18 or something. She's very impressed by him, but at the same time she's like, well, he's hot, so I just want to jump his bones. So they do have this kind of immediate connection together, and in the 5 years ago kind of timeline they fooled around a little bit. But then, as is prone with Ali's books, there is a lot of miscommunication, a lot of things like them not finishing their sentences when they communicate, meaning that they assume a lot about each other. At least the heroine assumes a lot about the hero. And it turns out that when she finally joins NASA, she wants to win this project to go to Norway for this expedition, and she finds out that he boycotted the budget for this expedition, so she is absolutely pissed at him. And he is like, he has his reasons for saying no, but at the same time she just really doesn't give him any chance to, you know, explain himself, as is normal within Ali Hazelwood's books. I mean, when you've read all of Ali's books, you get that this is like on brand with her, but at the same time you start to kind of get over it, you know. At least for me, this book was completely unnecessarily kind of very similar to the other ones that I've read when it comes to, you know, the hero is big in every kind of way, hot and smart and aloof and kind of nerdy and dorky, while the heroine is badass and like a STEMnist, brilliant kind of woman and very self-made. By the way, she's bisexual, which is, I didn't know that, so now I can fit it into my LGBTQ plus bingo card trope thing. But yeah, she's very much like very contemporary. And at the same time, I'm like, I don't know, like, I know that the bundle of novellas was supposed to be like following these three friends and being very similar because it's all in the STEMnist world, but at the same time, could it be just a little bit different from the other ones, so it kind of makes sense for me to enjoy it a bit more than just reading the same kind of things over and over. I really love Ali Hazelwood, specifically her contemporary novels. I've really enjoyed them. Love on the Brain and The Love Hypothesis and Love Theoretically, that one was my favorite. But these novellas were kind of a bit of a miss for me. I think I gave all of them 3 stars. And yeah, it was just a quick read. I could read it in one sitting and just mindlessly do stuff while I'm reading. And now we're getting on to the more interesting part of the readathon, because I made a plan. I made a plan for myself to include a couple of books, and it turns out that those books I cannot include because I had this thing where I had this paranormal fantasy book called The Diablo's Curse, and I started it and I put it down almost like at like the 15% mark or so, because I was so freaking confused, and I just didn't want to start the readathon with such a book because it would just make me slumpish. So I put it down, so that one kind of falls away from all the books that I wanted to read. Then I have this book called The Sticken, which is a YA. I didn't know it was YA. I thought it was adult. I'm always confusing stuff when I start books, but it's a YA fantasy book, but I'm not sure that it has any romance in it, because again, I got to the 15% mark last night before I went to bed, and I don't know whether it has a romance. I'm going to research it today, and if it does have a romance, I'm going to read it during the weekend. But if it doesn't, I'm just going to leave it for another time and find another book to read. And then now I decided, because I was looking over the prompts yesterday, like what should I pick up now, I found that because I just recently purchased the copy of The Idea of You by Robinne Lee, because that book is getting an adaptation and it's going to come out in May. I really wanted to read the book before the movie comes out. I found that it fits perfectly into my bingo card because it has an age gap relationship, it's taboo, and I really wanted to read this book. It's also a new to me author. I've never read anything by Robinne Lee before. I have the physical copy, but I also have the audiobook, so I'm going to read the audiobook while I'm doing chores, and then I don't know, tonight maybe I'm going to read along with the physical book. And that is going to be my second read for the readathon. I really hope that I enjoy it. Actually, I think I'm also going to, no, this one I'm not going to include in the 5-star prediction because I'm not sure I'm going to love it as much as I hope. Because I have some kind of backstory from Goodreads that everyone hates the ending, so I'm not sure it's going to be a 5-star, but I have another book in mind that is going to be my 5-star prediction for my bingo card. So yeah, I'm just going to continue making my pancakes here. Then I'm going to start on my day. We needed to go to the passport kind of place to request the new passport for my son, but we just slept late because we were watching Peaky Blinders until late last night. So I was like, okay, I'm not gonna torture my partner by waking him up this early to go to request the passport, so we're gonna do that next week. But yeah, basically this weekend is going to be a bit hectic because my son had his birthday last week, but he got sick, so we couldn't celebrate it. So we've organized on Sunday a party for him with his friends, so we need to do some stuff to organize the party. Today we need to go to his school to send out the invitations for some of the kids, and I have a couple of really heavy tasks for my work that I need to do, but in the middle of the afternoon I think, and in this evening I think I'm going to be able to fit in a couple of hours of reading. So I can't wait to see how I'm going to like The Idea of You and update you. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. I just had to capture myself crying on the internet, of course. I'm 96% into The Idea of You. And this is happening. I'm crying. I'm heartbroken for what is happening, and I have felt the anxiety within this book throughout most of the book. And honestly, I just need to feel everything, you know. I don't know if you can see me well, by the way, but I just need to feel everything right now as it is happening. And then tomorrow at some point I'm going to do a more elaborate update of what this book is. But it's been a while since I've cried. I think maybe 2 or 3 months since I've cried with a book. This one just really is breaking my heart. And yeah, what a book. What a book. I'll see you in the update where I'm going to tell you quite a lot of thoughts about this book. everyone. I just wanted to kind of use the moment because I sat down to film a video and I decided that while I'm filming and my partner is with my baby downstairs, I'm going to use the time to film an update for the vlog because I didn't manage to do it throughout the day. It was an exceptionally sunny day and we spent it outside in the park, and I just had so much fun with my partner and my baby outside. So we just had a kind of family day outside in the park. We went grocery shopping and I made ramen, which turned out really great. I unfortunately didn't film it. Maybe I can post a picture of it like in the thumbnails or something, but basically the ramen was really good. But basically what I wanted to update you on is the book that I finished last night. You probably saw in the clip, the other clip, that I bawled my eyes out at the end of the book. The Idea of You is a very interesting, very special kind of book in my opinion. I do understand why a lot of people are upset by the ending of that book, but for me, and I think this is really a me thing, I enjoy romances as much as women's fiction books. I don't think that specifically this is a women's fiction book. This still for me is a love story. It's just a love story that has, unfortunately, and I'm going to spoil it here, a tragic ending. So if you're looking forward to the show, I'm looking forward to it too, by the way. And I really think that Anne Hathaway and the guy, I cannot pronounce his name, they're very well chosen for the roles. At least I feel like they're going to do a splendid job on the show. I'm very much looking forward to see if the ending is going to be the same in the series. Is it a series or a movie? I think it's a movie. And yeah, this book centers on our heroine, Selene. She is a mother of a 13-year-old teenager, and her teenage daughter is absolutely obsessed with this boy band. She asked to go to a concert together with her friends in Las Vegas, and Selene agrees. So she takes her daughter and these screaming teenagers to this boy band concert. At the concert, she meets the band, and one of the guys from the band shows obvious interest in Selene. His name is Hayes. He is the frontman for the group, and he is 20 years old, while she is almost 40. So there is a very big age gap within this book, which fits perfectly into my bingo card for the readathon, by the way. And yeah, this is very much a taboo relationship as well. And yeah, I just really enjoyed the heck out of this book. There was a lot of sexiness within this book, a lot of spice. I didn't expect that, to be quite honest. Specifically because a lot of people said that this is a women's fiction book, but it was really steamy. And typically, like women's fiction books, while they do have some steam in them, like for example, if you compare it with Kennedy Ryan's books, she also has steam within the books, but it's not really front and center, while in this book it definitely was front and center. Also, the romance was very much front and center. The two of them really fell so hard for each other, even though both of them, specifically the heroine, was really reluctant in getting there. She really didn't want to fall in love with him because she knew it would most probably end tragically, specifically also because she was very afraid of what her daughter was going to think about their relationship. And obviously also the whole world, because this boy band is like a huge boy band. And it was just so relatable. Like if you think about how like a 40-year-old and a 20-year-old would be together, like what kind of similar points do they have together? Like, can they connect on some level? And I really did feel like the hero Hayes, he was very mature for his 20 years of age, and he just did such a splendid job in trying to convince Selene that they could make it work. And really the end broke my heart because I really, in the heart of me, wanted for them to work it out, even though the world was against them and everything was working against them. My battery is about to die, so I really need to wrap this up. So the thing is that everyone was saying like, you know, it's very realistic how it went in the end, and I do agree with that to some point. It could have ended differently, if you ask me, because really their relationship was so well developed by some point within the book, but at the same time I really did understand the heroine's hold-ups in the end. So yeah, this was a really interesting book. Honestly, I thought that this one fitted into my 5-star prediction bracket within my bingo card because I picked this one up afterwards. But really, the idea of you took me by surprise. I gave that book 5 stars. It definitely is going to be a favorite read of mine for this year. And I'm really happy that I picked it up for the readathon. And this one I'm going to discuss in length in another clip because I need to wrap it up and kind of save on my battery and charge my phone. And then in the next one, I'm going to update you about this one. All right, so I told you that I was going to update you on Butcher and Blackbird, but I think I need to talk about the book that I'm reading at the moment first. So sometime in the future, you're going to see my full thoughts on Butcher and Blackbird. Right now, I'm going to talk about a young adult fantasy book called The Sticken. I'm reading the audiobook for it. It just came out, and this one is very interesting. When I started reading it, I think I mentioned in a clip before, I wasn't sure if it's going to be a romance. So I was like, should I read this while I'm doing a romance takeover readathon, or should I just put it down and start when the readathon is over? So I researched it, and it really said that it's a young adult fantasy romance. So there should be a romance somewhere in there. So I'm going to continue reading it because it really fits into a couple of the prompts for the bingo card that I have. So I was like, okay, I really need to get on with this because I still have 1.5 days from the readathon, so I think I can finish it. So I'm going to do just that. In the meantime, I'm folding the clothes because I do that in like bulk. I'm reading The Sticken, and we've got our heroine Clara, who lives in this city where a lot of weird things are going on. If I have to be honest, when I started reading it, I was like, is this a horror or some kind of mystery horror situation? Because it really resembled such a situation. They're living in this city where every day there is this storm coming through, and the storm wipes everyone's memories away, and the only person who isn't affected by the storms is Clara. So we already know that she has some kind of abilities that are going to help her through the situation she's in. Additionally, she's hearing this male voice in her head, this boy's voice in her head. And because he's like her only companion, she very much develops feelings for the boy. She really trusts him, and it's really like her best friend. And on a specific day, she goes to school, and a lot of weird things start happening. Like one of her teachers kind of starts breaking out of character, like his memory is not rewiped, and he starts approaching her, and they tell her that they're going to take her or something like that. And that's where our hero, the guy who is in her head, kind of appears, and he is like, I'm not sure how to explain this right now. He's like this entity, and there is this smoke, and I'm not sure what kind of a creature he is, but anyway, basically this kind of action sequence begins where he takes her out of that situation, and then this fighting begins, but between these, what they call diviners. They're like these entities, like shadow creatures that come through, and they're the ones that wipe out the memories of people. So it's not really a storm, but it's actual beings that come through. And we find out that the guy's name is Kale, which is weird to me. I really don't like that name. For me, kale is a vegetable. So not sure why authors are using that name. But anyway, Kale helps Clara escape. He helps also take her mom to a different place. And that's where kind of the interesting situation begins, where he's explaining to her what the heck is going on, because she's been living in this city for some years now. So Kale starts explaining to her what is going on. He does explain that yes, there are 2 parallel worlds where something is going on, and the beings that are in that main city. They're called nobles. They want power and they want to be rulers over both of the dimensions. And I think I'm like maybe 12 to 15% in, and it's a lot of info in the first like 15% of the book. I'm trying to get through and really understand what is going on. So one of my impressions here is it's young adult, right? So there's bound to be moments where the heroine reacts like a typical teenager, which he definitely does, because he was like, do you trust me to take you wherever? And she's like, yes, I trust you, but only if you take me to my mother first, otherwise I don't trust you. And I'm like, that's not how trust works, honey. I mean, what the fuck? I was laughing out loud, seriously. So it's a trip, like for so far, like it's a very intriguing and interesting kind of premise, right? It's not something that I've read about. It does bring memories of like similar movie kind of premises that I've watched, but not really books that I've read. So I'm very much looking forward to see how it's going to develop. Yeah, I'm going to continue on. I'm going to see that I finish at least maybe like 30 to 40% today. And then tomorrow in the morning, we're going to do my son's birthday celebration. His birthday was like 10 days ago, but because he got sick, we decided to postpone it. So tomorrow they're going to meet up with some kids in this play club for kids, and in the morning I'm going to be there with him. But then once we come home around like lunchtime, I have the full day to myself. So I think I'm going to have plenty of time to listen to the audiobook and finish it. So that's the plan. Let's hope that I get to make it and that I get to wrap up this vlog having read all of the books that I had planned to read. We'll just wait out and see. I'll update you soon. I really need to update you on Butcher and Blackbird as well, because I have many thoughts, because as you all know, currently there's a lot of drama going on in Bookland involving one of the narrators specifically of that book. So I'm going to let you in on some thoughts that I have on that situation as well in the next update, because obviously everyone has thoughts, myself included, and I'm going to share them with you. I'm not sure if it's a good idea, but regardless, I'm gonna do it. So up till the next one. So my dear friends, it's time to wrap up this reading vlog where I'm going to share all of my thoughts on the books that I haven't yet discussed on this reading vlog during this romance takeover readathon. It was a bit of a hectic weekend for me because we had my son's birthday party in the morning yesterday, and it was a blast. I really loved having that experience with him, because now that he's 5, he's fully like enjoying and really basking in all of the emotions and the amazing things that are happening. So playing with friends and really sharing emotions with his loved ones and getting all the gifts that he has wanted. So I really loved that experience with him. And then when we came home, I went on like a cleaning spree. So I was like, I don't know what was with me, but I was like, I need to finish those books, and then at the same time it's better to do something productive, because otherwise I'm gonna fall asleep and not read anything. So I just went on cleaning and I finished up one book that I had not planned to pick up during the readathon, because I actually DNF'd the Sticken. Let me tell you about that one first. So I told you in the last update that it was a bit of a ride, that book, and I actually got almost to the 50% mark. I was thinking about 45-47% into the book, and I just couldn't with it anymore, because first of all, like I mentioned in the previous clip, it just was getting so confusing, because there were different dimensions and the heroine was having one life in one dimension and then another life in the other dimension, and I was starting to get confused also by the different characters within the different plot lines. And also the narration of the book. I picked up the audiobook for this. The narrator was narrating everything as if it was like the worst thing that is happening, so with a lot of angst and a lot of emotion. And when there are certain parts within the book where that is kind of, how do you say, needed, I can appreciate that, but it was like almost the whole time you're within a teenage angst kind of ridden situation, and that really got to me. I was like, oh, come on. Like, she's getting in a car and she's like, she's getting in a car. And I'm like, can we not do that? It was just so distracting for me. And also, just I think the idea behind this book was really good, with those storms coming in, wiping people's memories, only the heroine not being wiped, and then her having this special power. We later find out that she has the power of death. And that idea, I really think that could have been explored in a really good way, but it was just executed in such a bad way, in my opinion. I just could not continue on and just waste my time with this book. So I decided to put it down, even though I kind of got halfway through it. So yeah, I put it down and I decided to just DNF it. So I was like, okay, so I still have almost the whole day for myself, so I can definitely finish a book if it's about like 6 hours reading time. So I decided to pick up Kennedy Ryan's latest release, This Could Be Us. I think that, so what is the series called? Skyline something? Skyland series. The first one being Before I Let Go. I absolutely love that book. It's one of my favorite Kennedy Ryan books. And I had already heard through the grapevine on BookTube that everyone was saying that this book is more women's fiction-y than it is a romance. So I was kind of prepared for that. And when I picked it up, I really understand why everyone is saying that, because the romance is definitely not the focal point, like the focal point within the book. It's really like a very important part of the journey of the heroine Soledad, but really it's her self-discovery journey that is more important, and her self-growth and self-love. I really appreciate that within the story, but at the same time, if you really are someone who is very influenced by the romance within the book, you may not love this one as much as the other books by this author. For me, it didn't make a difference. I still love this book. The book centers on our heroine Soledad, who is married with 3 beautiful children. They're all teenagers and they're all girls. She is married to a guy who, he's working for some kind of a company, like a cooking utensils company that is like very popular, so very much a very prominent company. And he has been kind of acting shady lately, so she is both suspecting that he's having an affair, and she's also suspecting that something is going on at his company, because he's really like very stressed all the time, and he's been mentioning that one of his colleagues is like on his back the whole time. And they go to this party, this company party together, and that is where she meets the hero of the book. He's a colleague of her husband's, and he's actually the colleague who is bothering her husband, because he's performing an investigation into her husband. And so it turns out that her husband has been stealing from the company, and he actually gets arrested by the FBI. When he gets arrested, Soledad is absolutely like mind-boggled, because she didn't know that he was doing that. And also she was kind of really worried about how she's going to make do, because she's not working. She's a stay-at-home mom, and she has always relied on her husband providing for the family. And that is the moment where she starts to self-reflect on how much she has put her trust into a person to take care of her and their children, and how she needs to get back on her feet and rely on herself to start taking care of her family. So we do get a lot of that within the book, of her really stepping on her own 2 feet and really stepping up to take care of her daughters financially, as well as being present in their lives every day. And at the same time, she gets like a lot of crap thrown at her from her ex-husband, from what he has done, and a lot of like consequences of what has happened are falling also on her shoulders. So we really feel for her. And then we also get the perspective, we get chapters of perspective of the hero, Judah, who he used to be married. He has 2 kids of his own, 2 boys, and both of them are on the autism spectrum. And from what I've heard from the community is that the representation for autism in this book is really well done. And let's not forget that Kennedy Ryan also has a child with autism, so we already knew that she was going to deal with this topic with very much care and very much sensibility. She has hired enough sensitivity readers to read through the book before publishing it to make sure that she has represented the autism spectrum in the best possible way, because no one person is the same in their journey with autism as the next. So she was really careful with trying to represent that, and I really appreciate that she did that. So we've got Judah, who is divorced, and he is co-parenting with his ex-wife, and they have the best kind of co-parenting relationship for their sons. And I really love that within the book, seeing a healthy co-parenting relationship, seeing that two people who have fallen out of love can still be the best of friends and can still take care of their children in the best possible way, really putting the focus and priority on them. So that was really amazing. And yeah, the love story is kind of, it's not really forbidden, but in the eyes of society, Judah helped get her husband arrested. So in the eyes of society, everyone is like, why would you go with the person who made sure your life falls apart, right? Especially also her children, by the way. So it's kind of a, I wouldn't say taboo or forbidden, but definitely not a conventional type of relationship that they start, especially because Soledad already from the start of their meeting the second time lets him know that she really is on a self-discovery and self-growth and self-love journey. So yeah, it's a bit of a slow burn. It's more of a women's fiction-y book indeed than a romance, but I absolutely loved it, just like any other Kennedy Ryan book I have picked up. If I have to compare it with other books that I've read by Kennedy, I think that this one is not my all-time favorite. I have other books that I've appreciated more, that are closer to my heart, maybe because of the topics that they deal with. So I gave this one 4 stars, but it's a very high 4-star rating. It's just that for me, when I compare it to Real, to Grip, to Before I Let Go, this definitely didn't impact me as much as the other books that I've read by this author. That's why I gave it 4 stars. But I would definitely recommend this book for anyone who loves Kennedy's writing, because it's just so beautiful. She writes the best kind of books with the best kind of very intentional choice of which kind of words to put on a page to make you feel. So yeah, this one I definitely loved. And then going back to a book that I finished before these books, but that I decided to leave for last because I have some thoughts that I need to share here. It's Butcher and Blackbird. This book, I was very hesitant whether I should pick it up for the Romance Takeover Readathon, because just when the readathon started, the news broke out about Joe Arden, a very popular, prominent audiobook narrator who is narrating this book, and some allegations that have been made against him and his company, because he was the president of this audiobook production company. And I was following very, very closely what was happening, what was being discussed in the Bookverse, so on Threads and Instagram and everywhere, and I was very hesitant to see whether I need to pick it up or not, because now we live in such a delicate kind of society. If you read a book where someone who is participating in the production of the book gets cancelled like he did, it kind of becomes almost like a problematic thing that you have chosen to pick up that product. And I need to elaborate here. What has happened is Joe Arden was accused of having inappropriate sexual conversations with fans and authors. He also was accused that they were doing some kind of manipulations when signing contracts with his production company, when it comes to the products that they kind of acquire. I don't know how to explain it very well. I'm not the best at explaining what the drama is about. But there was this website where a lot of people who have had interactions with him could post their experience with him, and that kind of broke out and everyone was reading their interactions with him, and it turns out that he just was a crappy human being to them. So I definitely need to say that I totally support everyone sharing their story and kind of exposing this kind of a person, because if he is allowing himself to use his position, his fame, his kind of notoriety within the community. It's the most despicable kind of thing, right? To take advantage of your position with vulnerable women, women who are admiring you in some way or another, and really behaving in the way that they say that he did. If he did that, that is absolutely despicable. And I definitely want to say that I trust and believe the women who have come forward, because it's a very brave thing to expose something so vulnerable about yourself. But at the same time, there is another part of the story that I want to address, because I've seen a lot of discussion about this, and I just want to say something that may not be a popular opinion, but it definitely is just my opinion, so I want to share it on here. And that is that a product, this is a product of someone's labor, is not the product by Joe Arden. The product is by Brynne Weaver and by the authors, editors, and whoever was involved in producing this specific piece of work, and that she has hired, so the author has hired a company to make an additional product off of her book, so an audiobook. Does not mean that the person who is narrating it, if they get cancelled, that the book should get cancelled. So I've seen a lot of people saying you should not read the book, or they were appealing to authors like, you need to rework your book, so you need to take it off of the market and then have someone else narrate it. And I'm like, I was just discussing this with Cynthia from Kindle After Dark, because she posted something about this that is very similar to my opinion. And that is that, I mean, that is such an entitled piece of opinion to have someone who has paid, because most of these books are independently published books. You have hard-earned money, or money that you have borrowed, or money that you definitely have a hard time coming by. You have already fronted that cash to a company to produce a product for you, or to reproduce a different variety of your product. And everyone's saying to you, you need to pull it off and then just forget about the money that you paid and pay the same amount of money to another company to produce that same product. That is just mind-boggling to me, that people are kind of pushing authors to do that. Authors that have a very prominent positions, I saw that Sarah Kate made an announcement that she's going to pull her books. Good on her. I really love that the authors who have the ability to rework the books are doing that. I love that they don't want to be associated with Joe Arden. That is great, but you cannot demand it from every single author who has worked with him. And for me, my position for when it comes to Joe Arden, I think that a person who has been behaving like him is a narcissist. And the best punishment for a narcissist is to have their name go into oblivion. I think that that is the biggest fear of a person who has like a godlike complex like he does. So I think the best we can do is just basically neglect and ignore, and just, like I said, bring his name into oblivion, the person who should not be named, and just support the authors, support the other narrators who are working with him, who are not at fault for his behavior. Support anyone who is coming out with information about him. And just basically, yeah, I think we should not cancel the product. We should cancel only the person who is at fault. So this is my kind of way of thought and logic into why I decided to pick up Butcher and Blackbird. But I do have to say that because I picked up the audiobook for it, I definitely had a different experience with it than if that wouldn't have happened, I think, because I definitely had a prejudice against Joe Arden when I was hearing him narrate it. The production for the audiobook was great because it's in duet narration. There were some sound effects within the audiobook which made it very interactive and very different like. So That is what a lot of people were saying about this book as a plus before everything came out, right? That it was very interesting and very different, and that's why a lot of people were giving it 4 and 5 stars. So part of the appeal of this book before everything came out about Joe Arden is that the production for the audiobook was really great, and I do agree with that. It was a very interesting, fun story that involves 2 serial killers who are serial killers who kill other serial killers. So they kind of are like the good guys, but they're killing off other people. So they're not actually the good guys. That's why it's a dark romance. You do see a lot of things, so there are trigger warnings for this book that are mentioned at the start of the book, where you really see killing on page, torture on page. There is accidental cannibalism within this book that a lot of people find funny. I was kind of wicked out, if I have to be honest. But at the same time, there were fun things about this book that definitely made it different than what you would expect in a romantic comedy. We've got these 2 serial killers who by chance bump into each other while they're trying to kill the same person, and the heroine within this book, she actually was caught unexpected by the serial killer who she tried to kill, and she was kind of locked up, and the hero within the book, he helped her out, and because they kind of knew about each other's reputations, they were kind of fanboying and fangirling about each other, which was very cute and very fun. And they decided to do this kind of yearly competition of trying to get to a serial killer first. It was a really fun read, I have to say that, but also because it was very hyped. This is the danger with hyped books. You kind of get to a point where is the expectation too much? And for me, definitely it was. I was really expecting more out of this book, especially because everyone was saying like, oh, this is such a sweet romance and the hero is this and that. But then when I heard the audiobook and he was kind of like really overplaying the role of the hero, I was like, not sure that this is what I expected out of the hero. So yeah, I gave this book 4 stars because it definitely deserves it, and I definitely will read the next book, which will come out sometime, I think in the summer, because it was different, it was fun, it was refreshing to read something that is very dark, funny, sweet, and at the same time kind of disturbing. So I'm also very invested in the other characters within the book. So the hero's 2 brothers are going to be the respective heroes for the other 2 books that are going to come out in the series. So I'm invested in their stories. They were very well developed within this book, so you definitely get intrigued to want to read their books. But yeah, basically there is a big cloud of negativity that surrounds this book now because of the audiobook narrator, but I definitely want to give props to the author of this book because she deserves it. I mean, she created something that we haven't really encountered or read anything like that before, at least I haven't. And that's why the book got so much hype, because it was just so different. And yeah, I just want to round this topic off with, we really need to be careful with what we put out into the open space. I'm very careful with whom I interact with and how I comment on certain topics that I'm not really too much aware of, or I don't know all the sides of the story. I've been seeing a lot of attacks on a lot of people involving this situation that I find very uncomfortable. Specifically, like I said, authors who have books that are produced by Blue Nose Audio or including Joe Arden as their narrator. I'm like, this is already hard enough for everyone involved. I mean, the person who is to blame, the person who really needs to get the brunt of all of this is Joe Arden, and also his production company needs to step up and do better than what they have done until now. But really attacking authors who have simply just chosen a service like anyone else. It's like, I was discussing this with Cynthia, it's like, you know, a very simple example of this is, let's say that you buy a plane ticket and you go off to fly with an airplane, and the pilot, you find out later on, is intoxicated. How do we approach this situation? Obviously, the airline is at fault and the pilot is at fault, but you cannot go off and sue Boeing and sue the manufacturers of specific things within the plane because one person was intoxicated. You go off on the persons responsible, the pilot and the airline company. And also what I see is like people boycotting almost like audiobooks in general. I'm like, with the same example, because one person was intoxicated and was putting people in danger, are you going to say I'm never going to fly again? Most probably not. I mean, we use these services every single day. We're book lovers, so we're bound to want to use these products. So for us, it's important to really set the precedent in what we actually want with our product. So if we say this audiobook was done great, like in a great way, we want such audiobooks in the future, but we don't want this person to be involved in those audiobooks because he behaved very badly with very many people, then that is how we get rid of the problem. We get rid of him and we make the company hold themselves accountable. That's what we need to do. We don't need to go after other authors, after other participants, or even after other audiobook narrators and saying, like, for example, Shane East, he immediately came out with this, I think many audiobook narrators came out with kind of like a statement about the situation, and they all felt pressure from the community to say something about this. I understand that many people will feel compelled to say something out of the depth of their heart, which is great. But if you feel pressured by the community, it means that you don't know if the person who is issuing the apology or the reaction is really genuine. So for me, I think that we really need to be very careful about what we put out into the internet, into the social media platforms, and how we kind of interact with people. Also, this is like a really prime example with Joe Arden. We saw that a lot of people were interacting with him in his DMs. I mean, like, come on, these are actual people. So if I'm going to talk to an author or to an audiobook narrator or even a content creator, you want to do that with the utmost respect. You're not going to look for like a relationship with these people. They're just people who have their own lives, their own inner circles, and we're just people who admire their work. At least this is how I view things. So don't come at me for my opinion here. I've really mulled over and kind of discussed with myself how I want to put out my opinion on this. I really hope that you understand where I'm coming from, because it's really difficult to talk about these delicate, really delicate topics. And it's kind of put a shadow on the readathon experience, unfortunately, because I chose this book, but at the same time it was maybe important to include it in one of my videos because I have been having a lot of thoughts about this. So yeah, this is all I wanted to say about this topic. I'm going to stop now. Basically, within this readathon, I finished the Annie Hazel book novella, the Robinne Lee book that I absolutely love. So that was like the takeaway winner for me out of this experience, together with This Could Be Us by Kennedy Ryan. I love those two books. The Sticken was unfortunately a DNF, and then Butcher and Blackbird was a 4-star read, but not a favorite. I expected a bit more out of it. So overall, even though I didn't finish all of the books that I had planned for this readathon, I really had fun and I had a blast with them. I was able to join the live wrap-up that was with Jenn and Khadija. I think Jess was sick and Rachel also couldn't make it, so it was just the two of them, but I had a blast seeing what everyone was reading and what everyone was loving. So overall, whenever there is a readathon, I definitely want to participate if I have the time and possibility for it. So next time that the ladies are going to organize something, I definitely want to be a part of it. And I hope you enjoyed my thoughts and that you have some food for thought out of all of that I've said on the difficult topic in the end. Let me know if you have any opinions that you want to share with me as well, whether you have read any of the books that I discussed here, and I hope to see you in the next one. Have a wonderful, marvelous day. Happy reading. Take care and bye-bye.